نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربي زدني علما اللهم فقهني في الدين. Assalamu alaikum, dear sisters. Alhamdulillah, today we are back with our class. So inshallah today we will continue with our normal routine of the lesson. So last week we covered Surah Al and Surah Qalam, so we'll go through those two briefly, just have a quick recap. So let's relearn what we learned last week. So last week we learned Surah Al and it began by telling us that it is the surah that will actually advocate for you. It is the surah that will actually intercede for you. So after you have passed away, it will be your light in the grave, it will be your intercession in the grave, and it will keep you safe. It's only 30 ayahs long, so we should make the effort to recite it every night before we go to bed. We should make the effort to commit it to memory, and I know we're very busy and we can't commit everything to memory, but we should at least try. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created life and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created death, but it was mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created death before life. So firstly there was nothing, life became of it, then there'll be nothing, and then life will become of it again. And this is all a test to see which one of you is the best in deeds. So who is it that does the best actions? Who is it that is going to build their home in Jannah? Who is it that is going to work righteous deeds to get back into their home in heaven? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created 7 heavens in layers, and every time a company is thrown into so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created 7 heaven in layers. So the heavens it's going to be beautiful. So every time people are put into heaven, they will be just so, overwhelmed with how beautiful it is, and the people there will be happy to see them. The people there will be welcoming them, so they'll go in with a warm welcome. On the other hand, every time a company is thrown into the hellfire, the keepers of hellfire will ask, did there not come to you a warner, saying that this is such a huge deal, being in hell is no joke? Did no one come to you to tell you about this? And if they did you not take heed? Like, it's normally we like to look after ourselves, so if we learn that there's something great around, we go towards it. If we learn that something is going to keep us healthy, extend our lives, make us happy, we're there. And we've learned that there's an afterlife, and you will be in the happy place if you do this, this and this, and then there's a place that's not so happy, and you will be in there if you do this, this and this. Did nobody come and tell you this? Did you not learn about this, and did you not do anything for yourself? So in a way you are your own worst enemy, because you refuse to do something. You refuse to you've actually chosen not to go into heaven, because you have refused to do the things that you need to do to go into the hellfire. So the people that will be that will go into the hellfire, they'll be asked this question: that did nobody come to you? And they'll turn around and say, yes, they did. There was somebody that came to us. There was someone sent to us, but we denied them, and we said that Allah had sent nothing down, and we do now regret it. But of course, now the regret is of no use. So they will be very regretful at that stage, but will that regret bring them any benefit? And the answer is no, it will not bring them benefit. Regret is useful in this dunya, when we've done something and we regret it, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us. That's useful regret. That is regret that has sorted you out, that has brought you good. But regret on that day will be like, you've had all these warnings, you've had all these signs, and you've chosen to ignore them. And now you're here and you're saying that you regret this. It's too late. We also did Surah Al Qalam, and the Qalam basically means pen. The pen was the first thing to be created. So the first creation to be created was the pen. And after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the pen, Allah said to the pen, write. It asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what do I write? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed it to write whatever is decreed about everything until the last hour. So everything that happens on this dunya is not haphazard, it's not by chance, it's not the fact that, oh, you know, maybe I could have prevented it somehow. It's written, and it was written when the pen was created, and the pen was created way before the other creations were created. And it was all written. So all of this is all planned, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's, you know, part of Allah's big plan. So the pen has written down your qadr. And the pen was one of the things that was created by the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it himself. So we learned that there were 4 things that were created. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the 4 things himself. The pen, Adam, Jannat al-Adan, and then everything else, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, kun fayakun, be, and it was. So all of it happened by the be of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then there was a really important lesson in there about, there was a story about the people, or the 2 brothers with the garden, with the 2 gardens. And what had happened is their father was a very righteous man, so he passed away, and these 2 sons, they inherited these 2 gardens. And the father, the day it would be the day to reap the fruits, the father would ask all the poor people to come around, and then the father would give those poor people fruits from these 2 gardens. But these brothers thought that they knew better. They thought that, you know, what is the point of us giving to these poor people? Our father was obviously very foolish that he used to invite these people over, and then he used to give them the fruits from our gardens. So what we'll do is we'll go to the garden way before these people wake up, and when they wake up, by the time they come to us, we will have, you know, taken all the fruits, and we will have gone home, and there'll be nothing for them. So they were like, you know, looking to have the last laugh at the expense of these poor people. They hadn't actually done it. They just intended to do this. When they got to the garden in the morning, it was burnt asunder. There was no fruits left. So the important lesson from this is that because these people withheld goodness, they deprived themselves of goodness as well. So when people think that we don't want to give to the poor, we don't want to, you know, share the goodness, then they too are deprived of that goodness. They too are deprived of the good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends into this dunya. So the interesting point is that they hadn't actually done you know, the deed just yet. They hadn't got to the garden, they hadn't taken the fruit off, and they hadn't sort of like disappeared before the poor people turned up. They had only intended it. So we see that bad intention, there are also consequences for the bad intentions. So they hadn't actually done the act, but they were still punished for it because they intended to do it, and they had actually got up to actually take steps to go ahead and do this. So whatever, you know, we have to be very careful about what we think about, what we intend, what we feel, you know, like I'm going to do this or I'm going to do the other. Always try and do what is good, to try and keep your intentions pure, and try and do what is right, what is good. So the people that give to others, they're not suckers, they're not bevkuf, they're not stupid, they're not foolish. They're people that Allah has put mercy in their hearts. And they're people that know that what we have is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah's given it to us, but what we have, there's a share for others in this. And therefore they give the share to these people. So their father was a fantastic man, he used to do this. But the sons, they thought differently. They were like, no, I think we could profit from it more. They did, however, learn their lesson. They did repent, and they did ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. And then the surah spoke about the shin that will be uncovered, and of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that will be uncovered. And people will be invited to do the sajda, to do the prostration. everyone will be able to do the sajda except for those, who did not do the sajda in this dunya. So it's the people that disbelieved, and also people who said they were Muslims, were probably born in Muslim households, but just never ever prayed, because they did not do sajda to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they did not prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will not be able to do this on that day. So they will be asked, yes, go ahead and do your sajda, but they will be unable to do it, because their backs will become like planks and they will be unable to do it. So to refuse to make sajda, the outcome of the deed is always like the deed itself. So because you did not bend in this dunya, you will not be able to bend in the hereafter. And so what happens is, we take things for granted. In this dunya, we are told to do certain things. We're told to pray, we're told to fast, we're told to be good to people, we're told to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, not to commit shirk. We're allowed, we know that we have to do these things, and because we know this is a blessing, we have these blessings in this dunya, but we don't take advantage of them. And in the hereafter, these blessings will not be there. We'll want to we will want to be people that are, do not commit shirk. We want to be people that do sujood. We want to be people who are upright and righteous. But on that day, it will be too late. And all the blessings that you have, they are a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And don't think that I have been given these because I am special. All humans are special. All life is special to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are all the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are all special in our own ways. Even the non-believers, their lives are sacred as well. They're special too. But what we must remember is, if Allah can give us this, then Allah can take it away from us, and Allah can give it to somebody else. So not to think that whatever we have, we deserve this and it's ours, and we're gonna keep hold of it, and nobody's gonna get a share from it. And we learned that the evil eye is real, so we should seek protection from the evil eye with the mawadathain. So we should always protect ourselves, do our adhkars in the morning, in the evenings, when we leave the house, when we start a journey, when we are about to eat, when we enter the house. All these adhkars, they protect you from the evil of the dunya. And then things like the Ayatul Kursi, the goals, Surah Al Haqqa. So all of these things, if we do the adhkars daily, these are a protection, and then all the other things, they are a protection too. And we should try and do most of them as we can. Right. So today's lesson is Surah Al Haqqa, and Surah Al Haqqa is the 69th surah. Surah Al Haqqa, the inevitable. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. The inevitable. What is the inevitable, and what will make you know what the inevitable is? So the inevitable is a reality. It is the day of resurrection. So the day of judgment, the day of resurrection, is a certain reality, and it will most certainly occur. Just because you're denying it or people do not believe it, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It will happen, and it's the haqqa, the inevitable. And the haqq, when the truth will, what will happen on that day? The haqq, the truth, will become plain and simple, and you will be able to see it. So the truth will no longer remain hidden or obscure, and all the realities will come to light. Each person will be given their haqq, what they truly deserve. So in this dunya, we might not have been given our haqq, what we deserved. We might have had our haqq taken away, but on that day, everybody will be given what their haqqs as they should have. Thamud and Ad, people denied the Qariya. As for Thamud, they were destroyed by an awful cry. And as for Ad, they were destroyed by a furious, violent wind. which Allah imposed on them for 7 nights and 8 days in succession, so that you may see men lying overthrown, destroyed, as if they were hollow trunks of date palm. So non-stop this wind, this icy gale blew for them for over a week. They were blown by the wind, they were thrown down, they were like the stalks of trees. And so their bodies, they lay dead, lifeless. And they were like the trunks of palm trees, and no one could pick up their bodies, because the majority of them had died because of this wind, because of this severe wind. And we have the wind sometimes now, and we think, yeah, it's just a bit of wind blowing. But these people, their sins have become so huge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this wind to actually clear them from the dunya. Ayah number 8. Do you see any remnants of them? And Pharaoh and those before him and the cities overthrown committed sin, and they disobeyed their Lord, and they disobeyed their Lord's messenger, so he seized them with a strong punishment. So they committed great crimes, but the punishment that they received was even greater than the crimes that they had committed. Because people seem to think that when they're committing crimes, they're the ones that are in charge, and they're the ones that are having all this fun by, creating misery for everybody else. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment is far greater than any crime that they would have committed. So their punishment was far greater. Ayah number 11. Verily, when the water rose beyond its limits, we carried you, mankind, in a floating ship, that we might make it an admonition for you, and that it might be retained by the retaining ear. So this goes back, referring to Noah, peace be upon him. The story is mentioned repeatedly in the Quran, and this is mentioned so that we listen to it and we remember the lesson. We don't forget about it. I think in majority of the surahs, we have actually learnt about Noah, peace be upon him. So we are reminded again and again, because the ears, when we listen to the Quran, the ears are doors to knowledge. Then when a person hears something, they pay attention, they listen, and they learn. And we must learn, because what a person perceives of sound, it's received by the mind, it goes into the heart, and it's preserved in your memory. And only then is a person be able to perhaps speak about it or act on it. So we need to ask ourselves that are we taking this information? This information that we're reading, so our eyes are being used and we're listening, so our ears are being used as well. Are we taking this in? Because if we're not taking it in, then what is happening? And the Quran is such that it's so interesting when we listen to it. And this is why I suggest that we write down as well, make notes. So you're listening, so you're using one faculty. You're looking at the words, so you're using the second one. And then you're actually writing them down. So you're using your third faculty in order to learn. And this way you will secure more knowledge. Ayah number 13. And when the trumpet will be blown with one blowing, and the earth and the mountains shall be removed from their places and crushed with a single crushing. And then on the day shall the great event befall. And the heaven will be rent asunder for the day. The heaven will be frail and torn up. And the angels will be on its side. 8 angels will. And the day and 8 angels will that day bear the throne of your Lord above them. So the angels will be at the borders, no one will be able to escape. But on that day, because everything is going to be flattened out, there will be no mountains, there will be no buildings, there will be no place to hide, there will be no caves, there will be no burrows, there will be nothing. The earth will be flat. And then there will be angels all around. So nobody will be able to escape. No one will be able to run. And they will bear the throne of your Lord above them. 8, meaning 8 angels will carry the throne of Allah on that day. And these angels, as we have learnt earlier, are mighty, they're huge, they glorify Allah, and they make dua for the believers. So right now, these angels are making dua for the believers. And remember that it is under the throne of Allah that judgment will take place. So the judgment will be made on the day of judgment. On that day, it will be under the throne that everybody will be dealt with. And we learn from the Prophet ﷺ that the Prophet ﷺ will make sajda under the throne of Allah, and then he will be allowed to intercede and ask that the judgment should begin. So we've covered this topic in the past, when everybody will be stood around and nothing will be happening, and they'll be so hot, and they're going to be sweating, and they're going to be thinking, okay, right, so what shall we do now? And they will have been stood there for an awfully long time, and then they'll go to the prophets, starting with Adam alayhi salam, and they will go all around asking them to ask Allah to start the day. And then in the end, the Prophet ﷺ will ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to begin judgment. And when the resurrection will occur, Moses will be holding onto the throne, and the people will be resurrected, and the Prophet ﷺ, this is how the prophets will see him, see Moses, peace be upon him, holding on to the throne. And the people will come there bringing their judgment, bringing their cases to seek justice. The Prophet ﷺ said that the slain will bring his killer on the day of resurrection. So the person that has been killed will bring their killer on the day of resurrection, and he'll be holding onto his forelock, so the front of his head, and he will be holding onto his forelock and his jugular vein, and he will say, "Oh Lord, he killed me. Oh Lord, he killed me." Meaning that the victim will drag the murderer in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in front of the throne, and ask Allah to judge between them. And then we learn that on that day, some people will be honored by being under the shade of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah will give shade to the 7 category of people that we have done many times under under the throne. Ayah number 18. That day shall you be brought to judgment. Not a secret of you will be hidden. Then as for him who will be given his book in his right hand, he will say, "Here, read my record. Surely I did believe, and I shall meet. I did believe that I shall meet my account. So he shall be in a life well pleasing." So if we think about ourselves and about our record, will we be able to be holding that record in our books and saying to everybody, hey, look, look what I've done? So if we look at what we do during the day, that is what's going to be in those books. So if we've spent the day just doing nothing, just watching TV, just watching drama, just gossiping on the phone, then those are the things that are going to be on that record. So is that the record that you're going to say, hey, look, look what I have? Will we be able to do that? Will we want to show that record? So we should do things which will not cause us embarrassment on that day. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about doing our best, and that's all is expected from us. Because your best might be different to my best, and my best might be different to the next person's best. And we all fall short. We will all make mistakes. We will all fall short. But then when we do fall short, then we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever loves to be pleased by his book of deeds should fill it with excessive istighfar. So when we have time, when we're when we're doing things that when we're in the house, like for instance all the times that we are doing these things that I've just mentioned, if we fill it with istighfar, that would be far better for us. If we fill those times with us seeking the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking istighfar, seeking to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy, then we will be happy with our books that day. And if you want to be happy, then look at what you do now. look at how we are spending our time. You know, how much of the time are we spending with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How much time are we spending in worship? How much time are we spending in dua? How much time are we spending in istighfar? So all these times, if we just think, well, actually, I'm not spending any of my time doing any of this on any other day, apart from that hour on Sunday, maybe I need to start sort of like selecting some time where I will consciously sit down, make the effort to make dua, or I will sit down, make the effort to make istighfar. So we should consciously make effort to do these things, to make istighfar, to do dua, to spend time just, you know, making just time contemplating, just time with the Quran, with the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this person who's pleased with his record, so he will say, so he will say, surely I did believe, and that I shall meet my account. So he shall be in a life well pleasing, in a lofty paradise, the fruits and bunches whereof will be low and near at hand. Eat and drink at ease, for which you have sent on before you in days past. But as for him who will be given his record in his left hand, will say, I wish I had not been given my record. So he's thinking, I don't want my record, I don't want to see it, I don't want to know what's in it, I don't want to face it. Because he knows he's not spent time doing the things that the first person has spent time doing. So he's thinking, no, it's in his left hand, and he knows that it's not good news when it's in your left hand. Ayah number 26. And that I had never known how my account is. Would that death had been my end. My wealth has not availed me. My power has gone from me. So right now, your wealth and your power, these are the two things that are keeping you from worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, keeping you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So our money, our belongings, our home, these are the things that distract us. But on the day of judgment, this wealth will not help us. It will not benefit us. And, you know, our power, our freedom, our authority, this all deceives us in this dunya. But on the day of judgment, no authority will benefit anybody. And it will be said, seize him and shackle him, then throw him into the blazing fire. Seize him and shackle him and throw him into the blazing fire. Then fasten him with a chain whereof the length is 70 cubits. Verily he used not to believe in Allah, the Most Great, and urged not the feeding of the miskin. So two crimes are mentioned here. First, the fact that he did not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second, that he did not encourage the feeding of the poor. So it's not enough for us to feed the poor, but we must also encourage our friends and relatives and people that we know. We must remind each other to feed the poor. So how will we manage to feed the poor? Is we actually look for people, we seek people out. We make donation to people, to organizations that feed the poor. We cut down on our own luxuries, we save a bit, and we sponsor, you know, if there's feeding the poor. We, instead of just giving a one-time donation, we perhaps do, you know, a monthly donation. And that way it's done every month or every day, every week, whatever it is. And you don't need to sort of like keep going back and doing it, It's being done automatically for you. Abu Darda, he would tell his wife to add more water to the stew. He would tell her to do this so it would increase in volume, and they would give some of it to the needy. So they would give some of it to the people around them. And he said to her that by believing we have thrown off half of the chain. So by believing, as in by becoming Muslims, we have thrown off half of the chain. And the chain that it speaks about is the chain which people will be tied with in the hellfire. So should we not get rid of the remaining half by feeding those in need? So he's saying that by believing we've got rid of half of it, and the other half we can get rid of by feeding those in need. So when you want to give your money, then figure out what you want to give, and then you make the conscious effort to actually do that, to make the donation or whatever. We feed ourselves, we feed our friends, we feed our families, but there are people who are needy that we don't really think about. We think, no, we don't really need to feed them. Who are they? What have they done for us? And we never think of feeding anybody. And sometimes what it is, we have enough food, it's wasted, it goes into the food caddy, but we do not make the effort to go out and give it to somebody who is in need. And often people think that in this country, oh, there are no needy people. But in this country, we do have needy people. So we do have people that are in need of food. If you look at all the food banks, they're crying out. Even working people are going to food banks these days. So maybe we should make a donation to the food bank on a more regular basis. And we should try to make the effort to go and check them out and see what's happening, how much donations they have, how many people they have coming to use them. We can, you can do that. You can check it online as well. So no friend has he here this day, nor any food except filth from the washing of the wounds. None will eat it except the sinners. So remember that the wealth that you have is not yours to enjoy on your own. So the Prophet ﷺ says that no doubt wealth is sweet, it is green, meaning that it is delicious, it is fantastic. But the wealth of a Muslim, the best wealth is the wealth that he shares with the orphans, he shares with the poor, and he shares with the needy, with the traveller. So, of course, it doesn't mean that we give all our wealth, we keep a certain amount for ourselves, but not all of it. We don't keep everything for ourselves. We should think of others and we should give to others as well. And it speaks about, on that day, his friends, that he will not ask about his friends. Not that he won't be shown his friends, he will see his friends. But that day, nobody will want to know about anybody else. We're going to be too concerned about ourselves. So our friends, no, we don't want to know. What if we find them and they want some good deeds of us? And we will all be so scared, so traumatized, that we really don't want to know anybody else. It's all about us on that day. So I swear by whatsoever you see, and by whatsoever you see not, that is verily the word of an honoured messenger. It is not the word of a poet, little is that it is that you believe, nor is it the word of a soothsayer, little is that you remember. This is the revelation sent down from the Lord of the Alameen. And if he, Muhammad ﷺ, had forged a false saying concerning us, we surely would have seized him by his right hand, and then we certainly would have cut off his archery, and none of you could have withheld us from punishing him. Allahu Akbar. So this is being said about the Prophet ﷺ, that if he had lied to you about Allah, then this is how Allah would have punished him. So if you think about it, that if this is what Allah is saying about the Prophet ﷺ, then what about us? How careful should we be when we speak about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we speak about the deen, when we speak about Islam? It is, how careful do we need to be? Ayah number 48. And verily this Quran is a reminder for the pious, and verily we know that there are some amongst you that deny this Quran, and indeed the Quran will be an anguish for the disbelievers on the day of judgment. And verily the Quran is an absolute truth with certainty. So no matter how much people deny the Quran, no matter how much people try and say that it's not the truth, or it's not the right book, or it's whatever, it is the Haqq. The Quran is the Haqq, and what the Quran tells us is the Haqq. So us as Muslims, we know that the Quran is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah's word is the haqq, is the truth. Ayah number 52. So glorify the name of your Lord, the Most Great. Next is Surah Al Haqqa. In the name of Allah, the Most Gracious, the Most Merciful. A questioner asked concerning a torment about to befall. So what does the questioner ask? It asks about a torment. It asks about punishment. So Allah has so much good to give, but this person, it's asking about punishment. It's asking about the torment. So Allah's hand is good. So when we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should always ask for good. Never, no matter how bad your circumstances are, don't utter for anything bad to happen to you. Allah can give you good, so ask Him for khair, for goodness, for health, for blessings, for pardon, for forgiveness. Don't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for punishment. The punishment, yes, it will come. There will be time, it will come. It's bound to happen. But before that, seek forgiveness. Seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save you. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rescue you. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you. And never ever, no matter how bad you are feeling, ask for any calamity to befall you. Ayah number 2. Upon the disbelievers, which none can avert from Allah, the Lord of the ways of ascent, the angels and the ruh ascend to Him in a day, the measure whereof is 50,000 years. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is high. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself is exalted, the highest, the ever living. In His abilities, His power, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above all. So He bestows favors on us. He bestows favors on His creation. He is the owner of all ascent. So all good deeds, all prayers, the souls of the righteous, the angels, they all ascend to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is nothing except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala owns it. So ayah number 5. So be patient, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, with a good patience. So when someone asks that what is sabrun jamil, it was clarified, it was said that when you are in a midst of a trial and you say Alhamdulillah with your heart. So the sabrun jamil is not like after you've done your wa'wila and your haidwa'i and you're crying and screaming and you've pulled your hair out and you've tried your best to do whatever it is. That's not sabrun jamil. Sabrun jamil is when something happens and you say Alhamdulillah, because you know it has happened with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decree. It's not something you could have avoided. So therefore you take it and you say Alhamdulillah, there's good in it. Whatever my Lord has decreed for me, it is good for me. So that is the sabrun jamil that this speaks about. Verily they see the torment afar off, but we see it near, the day that the sky will be like the boiling filth of oil, and the mountains will be like flakes of wool, and no friend will ask a friend about his condition. Though they shall be made to see one another on the day of resurrection, there will be none but will see his father, children and relatives. But he will neither speak to them, nor will he ask for any help. The criminals, sinners, disbelievers will desire to ransom himself from the punishment of that day by his children, and by his wife, and his brother, and his kindred who sheltered him, and all that are in the earth, so that it might save him. And this is what we've just discussed in Surah Al Mulk, in an ayah. It's that, of course, they will come across each other. People will come across each other, the wife, the brother, all the relatives that are mentioned here. And they will recognize each other. It's not that they won't recognize each other. They will be shown each other, but they don't want to be taking risks. They want to be away from these people. They want to be away from these people because these people, they think, will take them down with them. And you see, the first, at the beginning, it is mentioned that people that you love. So people that you love are your children, your firstborn, your wife, your brothers and sisters. And on that day, these people will mean nothing to you. And yet, look at how we try and protect them in this dunya. We stand up for them. Even if they're in the wrong, we will defend them. But on that day, it will not be like that. So the people in this dunya, they are proud and protective of their children. You know, this is my baby. No one's going to harm them. But on that day, they will be trying to run away from this baby. And they will be happy to throw this same child into hellfire in order to save themselves. So they will say, take him, but spare me. And the wife is mentioned. You know how it is when we get married, we're all living as a family and we want to move out with our wife because we think that the family's picking on her or the family's not good to her. And then the brothers mentioned, we grow up with these brothers thinking, oh, they're our brothers, we love them to bits. Friends are mentioned and relatives. All humanity is basically mentioned. And these are people that, of course, everybody cares about, and no one in this dunya would cause any harm to them. For instance, we wouldn't be walking out on the street and throw our brother or sister under a car. We wouldn't be doing that. But on that day, we will be quite happy to let them face the fire, as long as we are okay, as long as, we're not going to be in that fire. We want to, we want to rescue ourselves. So we must take time to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if we want good for ourselves, we want good for our brothers and sisters. So we must take time to worship Allah. We must make it a priority. And all these brothers and sisters, children, wife, husband, everyone that is mentioned in here, we should make dua for them. If they are people that are not close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we should make dua that they are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they become close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they start working to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So on that day, as a family, as a husband and wife, as parent and child, whatever the relationship is, you are happy to move forward towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with these people. Ayah number 12. No, ayah number 16. Ayah number 16. Taking away the head skin, calling all such as turn their backs and turn away their faces from faith, picking and swallowing them up from the great gathering of mankind on the day of resurrection, as a bird picks up food, grain from the earth with its beak and swallows it up, and collect wealth and hide it from spending in the way of Allah. So in ayah 16 it speaks about hell and how strong it is. It speaks about the removing of the flesh on the head. So the skin, the hair, the fingertips, all of these will be consumed by the fire. And of course, right now, if we have a little break in our nails, it is so painful. We go around, put a plaster on it. We're taking painkillers. We're going to the hospital, having it seen to. But on that day, these things are going to be burning first. And collect wealth and hide it from spending in the cause of Allah. Verily man was created very impatient, irritable when evil touches him, and niggardly when good things touch him. So it speaks about the impatient, how man has been created impatient in ayah number 19 and 20, how a man's character is. So when a person is created in this way, when the jaza that it speaks about, the impatience that it speaks about, it is about a person who is always thinking of the worst. So something bad has happened to him, but he's not thinking, oh, this is from my Lord, I need to be patient. But he's thinking all bad things that have happened. Oh, this always happens to me. Why is it me? He has a satanic response to it. So he's afflicted by something and he begins to think bad about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he begins to say bad things about, oh yes, but it's always me, my kismet is bad, my qadar is bad. And no one's kismet or qadar is bad. We should remember that Allah is the writer of your qadar, so it cannot be bad. There's probably challenges in it, but it's not bad. Those challenges are beneficial for you. So we must be careful in how we use our words, because we often find people saying, oh, so-and-so, bechare ki kismati, yeah, especially with girls, they always say, oh, poor thing, she's got such bad qadar. No, your qadar is never ever bad. So we must remember that no matter how difficult things are, then we must remember to say good things, not inappropriate things. We must remember not to whine, not to fuss, not to moan, and show sort of like despair and hopelessness by complaining. And that's what we usually do when anything happens to us which is not to our liking. Then these people that it speaks about, they become hopeless. They start saying bad things about everyone. He did this, so this is why it happened to me. She did this, and this is why it happened to me. It happened to you because it was the qadar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So just take it as the qadar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah to save you from further calamities. We'll go through ayah number 19 again. Verily man was created very impatient, irritable and discontented when evil touches him, and niggardly when good touches him, except those who are devoted to their salah, those who remain constant in their prayer. So the ones that remain constant in their prayer, they're not people that just pray sometimes, but they always pray. So they guard their prayer and they are consistent in their prayer. So the one that guards their prayer, they're the ones that are paying attention to their prayer, paying attention to how to perform their prayer. So when you pay attention to performing your prayer, you're not missing it, you're not delaying it from its proper time. You're working your life around the prayer. So you're consistent with that. And being consistent with salah, because salah, the prayer, actually teaches us self-control. It teaches us self-discipline. It creates calmness in a person. It creates sort of like contentness in a person. And it stops a person from doing what is wrong and what is inappropriate. So it teaches us to sacrifice. It reminds us that we have to meet our Lord. And when this person remains patient in difficulties and is hopeful in difficulties, and when they are stood in their salah, they put those difficulties and those hopeless situations and those difficulties that they've had, they put them in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So their salah is a good way of asking for help. It's a way of getting it off your chest. Like the reason we want to speak to other people about this and whinge and whine is because we need someone to offload on. So offload while you are, after your salah, when you are praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayah number 25. For the beggar who asks, and for the unlucky one who has lost his property and wealth. So the unlucky one who has lost his wealth, so we know about the beggars that ask. So they're the people that just come up to you and say, oh, give me some money. Or, there's family that will come up to you and say, oh, give me some money, I need this doing. So these are the people that ask. But then there's people who are very proud and they've had money in the past, so in that case they may have a nice house and so on, but they don't have money for their day-to-day things. They don't have money for food. They don't have money for clothing. So they're the ones that are not asking. So we should keep an eye out for these people. So we've learnt about them in the past as well. So it's the sa'il and the mahroom. So the mahroom is the person that doesn't ask. They haven't got everything, but they'll just sit back and they'll just plod along. So we have to seek out the mahrooms as well. Ayah number 26. And those who believe in the day of recompense. The Prophet ﷺ said, the best of good deeds is that you make your believing brother happy, meaning that you bring them delight in one way or another. You pay off their debt, you feed him bread, meaning that if there's nothing else that you can give him, then feed him a piece of bread, and that is a best deed. So the best deed is to actually help each other, is to feed your brother. So then that feeds back into the ayah that we've just covered, that the sa'il and the mahroom. So there's people that will ask, they'll be openly okay with asking, and then there's people that will not ask, and they will be the ones that you should be looking out for. And those who believe in the day of recompense, and those who fear the torment of their Lord. Verily the torment of their Lord is that before which none can feel secure. And those who guard their chastity, except from their wives or the women slaves whom their right hand possesses, and then they are not blameworthy. And whosoever seeks beyond that, then it is those who are trespassers, and those who keep their trusts and covenants. So trusts and covenants, the amana, the things that we are trusted with. This could be objects, this could be things that you are given to keep, take care of. In the past, people would be told to look after, let's say, certain things like, mind my car while I've gone to Pakistan, or I've gone on holiday. And back in these days, people would actually, their wealth or anything, they would leave it with their neighbour, like their goats or their camels or whatever that they had. They would leave it with somebody, and this would be an amana, and you would have to give it back, give it back on time and return it properly. Don't sort of sell it and say, well, actually it died, or just excuses like that. Also, when it comes to amana, which is more prevalent now, more relevant now, is things like information that people have shared with you. People are going through a hard time, and they've decided to share some information with you. They've decided to share a secret with you, and they've told you this in total confidentiality. And, they've said to you, keep it to yourself. And if they've shared it with you, that means that they think that you are quite special to them. But, just because you haven't signed a document to say that you're not going to share it with anybody else, doesn't mean that you go out and disclose it to other people. So this also comes in this amana business, that, when somebody has given you something, so in this case, you've given them, some information about yourself. You don't want them to go and share that information with others. And sometimes people think, oh, no, I've only told my mum, my mum's not going to tell anybody. But that person didn't tell you this information so you could go and tell your mum. They probably didn't even want your mum to know. Or I've only told my sister doesn't mingle with anybody. It's not about who you've told. The fact is that they've told you to keep it to yourself, and you've actually spoken those words out to somebody. And it doesn't matter who that somebody is. And it also includes responsibilities or words or commitments, promises and so on. So if you've made a promise to somebody, if you said, well, I will do this for you, then do it. I will be there at 2 o'clock. That's an amana. You need to be there at 2 o'clock. I will help you with whatever it is. That's an amana. You have said this to a person. Then you need to help that person with whatever it is that you've said that you will help them with. Ayah number 33. And those who stand firm in their testimonies, and those who guard their salah well. So salah, we see, is mentioned here again. So we will, of course, when we start speaking about salah, you just want to carry on and on speaking about, yes, well, this is how it is, and this is how we should guard it. So it mentions again and again about salah. Very, very important subject. So that's why we sort of like deliberately mention everything that we've probably mentioned in the last lesson, or probably a couple of hours ago, that the salah is very, very important. So, don't miss it, don't abandon it, don't sort of be doing other things when it's time for salah. Don't just think, well, for no reason I will combine my prayers, or I will just sleep in and then pray whenever I can. So it's very, very important. So, ayah number 35, such shall dwell in the gardens, honoured. So what is the matter with those who disbelieve, that they hasten to listen from you, in order to deny you and to mock at you and at Allah's book, sitting in groups on the right and on the left? Does every man of them hope to enter the paradise of delight? No, that is not like them. Verily, we have created them out of that which they knew, out of that which they know. So I swear by the Lord of all points of sunrise and sunset in the east and the west, that surely we are able to replace them by others better than them, and we are not to be outrun. So leave them to plunge in vain talk and play about until they meet their day, which they are promised. The day when they will come out of the graves quickly as racing to a goal. So everything that they've done that day, it will be so, it will be such a distance for them, that they'll be, all their goals and all their, worldly things, it will just be at a distance. The idols that they set up, or they fixed somewhere, they'll, how they used to hasten towards it. And that's how people, the way that you rush towards your idols in this dunya, that's how they will be rushing towards their idols in the hereafter. So on the day of judgment, they will be rushing again. Ayah number 44, with their eyes lowered in fear and humility, in public shame. That is the day which they were promised. So that is the day that you were asked. That is the day that they were promised. So we know that this day, it's we are asked to ask for protection from this day. We are asked to prepare for this day, and we are asked to ask for safety in this dunya and in the hereafter. So that should be our priority, that this day it's going to happen. Like we know, such an event is coming up, we prepare for that event. So this event is coming up as well. So this day, we have to prepare for this day too. Alright, so let's quickly do a recap. So today's lessons was, so the Haqqa, the event, the inevitable event, also another name for the day of resurrection. So it's a reality. Don't try and deny it, because that's what we usually do. We just sort of think, we've heard that Qiyamah's going to happen. We heard that it's, that day is going to come, but we'll deal with it later. Prepare for that day. And then we learned about people who lived in the past and what had happened to them when their sins had increased to such a level that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to punish them. And we learned about the people of Ad and Thamud, and how they committed great crimes, and how the punishment that that was sent to them was even greater than the crimes that they had committed. And the story of Noah, peace be upon him, is repeated again and again, and it is repeated so that we learn from it. And there's lots of different things that we learn from the story of Noah. We learned about how the people that were saved on that ship that day were the only people left on the earth. There were no other people. So we are from those people. So we are the children from, as time went on, we were from their progeny. The angels that will hold up the Allah's throne on the day of judgment, how there's 8 angels, and these 8 angels will be holding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's throne. There will be people underneath the throne, and these will be the people that we have mentioned in the past about these people will be the ones, you know, the 7 category of people that we mentioned: the people that give secretly, the people that worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their youth, the men that are tried to be seduced but they refuse. So it's a different 7 different categories of people that will be under the shade, and one of them is where people where a person meets a brother for no need and smiles in his face and is good to him. So these simple things, like meeting somebody or making the effort for somebody, these things will take will give you that place under the shade. And on the day of resurrection, when the Prophet ﷺ stands in to speak for us, Moses, peace be upon him, will already be there. He will be under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will be holding the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet will see Moses, peace be upon him, as he goes forth. And people on that day will be asking questions like, the person that's been killed will be wanting to know why he was killed, or will be wanting justice. Will be saying, this is the person that killed me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want justice. So the victim will be dragging his murderer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this dunya, your victim might be meek and quiet and tender, and you might be able to sort of like do away with them, but on that day you will not be able to do away with them. And the records that will be given in your hands. So we had the people of paradise whose record was given in the right hand, and the people of the hellfire whose record will be given in the left hand. And the difference of how they will react, like the people given their record in their right hand will be really happy. Look at my record, look at this, look at me, I knew that this day was going to happen and I prepared for it. And whereas the other one will be thinking, oh crap, I just wish my death had been the death, that's it, that I hadn't there was no other life. So they will not be very happy. So we are encouraged that because we know about these books, we know about these records, then what are we putting in these records? Are we just having 2.5-hour movies in there, watched this, watched the other 2.5 hours doing this? Or have we got istighfar in there? Have we got du'as in there? What have we got? What is our record containing? And on that, and the two crimes that were mentioned, that they did not believe and they did not feed people. Just 2 things that will take you to the hellfire. Feeding people is very, very important. Feeding the poor, feeding the hungry. So we must keep sort of like trying to feed, sort of like trying to sponsor people, sponsor families. If we've got families back home who are needy, then try and support them here, food banks and so on. Try and support them. So with regards to the wealth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, wealth, to see how you will react, how you will be. Will you be helping others, or will you think, no, this is all mine, I have this, Allah has given it to me, I am not passing it on to anyone, this is mine. And how the Quran is the haqq, it is the truth. And then we went on to Surah Al which spoke, as soon as the surah begins, it speaks about persons asking for punishment. And it is said that Allah has so much good to give. Why are you asking for punishment? Ask for the good, ask for forgiveness, ask for guidance, ask for pardon, ask for rescuing you, ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for anything that you need, which is good, which is going to benefit you, rather than asking for punishment. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give you whatever it is that you want. All you need to do is ask. And then spoke about the sabr and jameel, which is the sabr which you do at the first stroke of calamity by saying Alhamdulillah, and knowing whatever has happened was meant to happen. Yes, you couldn't have avoided it. You couldn't have just gone past it thinking, well, no, this isn't for me, this wasn't my, this isn't my share. It was for you, and Allah had decreed it many, many moons before. So whatever has happened, and you are grateful. You are saying Alhamdulillah. You are displaying sabr. In the hereafter, everyone will try to blame other people for what they have done. They'll be trying to avoid other people just in case they ask them for their good deeds. They don't want to be helping anybody out. They want to be giving other people as ransom for them, their sons, their wives, their brothers, whoever they find. They think, right, okay, take him, but just leave me alone. Just leave me. Take anyone else that you want. So all these, relatives that we have, all these relationships that we have, and at the moment, we try and protect them, we fend for them, we, stand up for them. But on that day, we will not be doing all of that. And then, of course, the prayer is mentioned, that guard your prayer, be strict about your prayer, be firm about your prayer, do not skip your prayer, pray on time, don't be, niggardly with your prayer, don't think, well, yeah, I can pray at any time, right this moment in time, I'm busy, I'm doing the other thing. And it stops a person from doing what is wrong, it builds patience in you, builds steadfastness in you. So the prayer is mentioned quite a few times. And the good deeds that are mentioned is, making people happy. So the wording used at the time was believing brothers happy. And doing good to other people. If someone needs anything, to stand in and help them. The Sahil and the Mahrum were mentioned, the people that beg and the people that do not beg but are still needy, that still need, so they have a right over you as well. Amana, trust can be of different shapes and forms. Trust is when someone has handed you something, look after this while I'm gone, take care of my money, or or while I'm not here, come into my house, stay here while I go and do something else. Trust can be of any shape and form. Trust can be with a word. I'm telling you this, please don't go and tell anybody else. And that person goes and spreads it. So they have broken their trust, they have broken the amana. So any confidential information that you have shared with people, if they have broken that, then that is, they have broken the amana. So, Alhamdulillah, it was, we learned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then obviously at the end we learn that in the hereafter, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the protection of the hereafter. And this is something that we do every day on a regular basis. After every salah, always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protection in the hereafter. Because this dunya, regardless of how it is, some people have it very comfortable, some people have it tough, but regardless of how tough this dunya might be for you, the hereafter, you cannot compare the toughness of the hereafter. So we ask for the protection and for the comfort of the hereafter. Are there any questions? Let's say goodbye to our Facebook friends.